So go ahead, Tony. Tell us about this
Sure.
arrangement. Yeah.
Thanks, David. Thanks for inviting me. I don't like to get into conversations that put me in confrontation with ministers because they tend to be that not a receiving kind of attitude, but a defensive kind of attitude when you try to get solutions or offer suggestions. And it also caused me to have to listen to the speech of the minister. And I try to avoid that because I find quite often ministers in this country and politicians generally tend to come across as angry, often disrespectful of the public and media, and sometimes bombastic. They are superfluous on words, but quite stingy on facts. So when I listen to these speeches and these presentations, what I listen for is what they don't say. And that can be quite informative. So one of the things I want to say is that I agree with the minister and Minister Vaz in Jamaica that there is merit in Petrojam and Paria collaborating on the trading of fuels. Now, where things get murky is that people are saying or thinking that Trinidad Paria is buying product from Petrojam and extrapolating that to say from Petrojam's refinery. The truth is, Petrojam's refinery is not very efficient and has been declining in production for many, many years. Nameplate capacity is 36,000 barrels a day throughput. It's down to maybe just over 20,000 barrels a day. It's been declining progressively. In terms of fuel oil, typically at best operation, it might produce 45% of that throughput into fuel oil. So the last numbers I have was Jamaica was producing about 9,000 barrels per day of heavy fuel oil. Now, Jamaica's demand for heavy fuel oil is about 15,000 barrels a day. So clearly, Jamaica is importing heavy fuel oil to meet its own needs. So what that tells me is that what Petrojam and Paria are collaborating on is a trading arrangement where they are buying from some seller and using the infrastructure, the location to advantage. But that makes sense. If you want to get involved in trading, you have to have one or more of a few things. You must have a demand or a supply if you're selling. You must have storage. You must have the ability to finance it efficiently. You must have a good credit rating, for instance. And you must have the ability to manage risk. Now, the challenge the Caribbean has faced for a long time is that all the markets are quite small. And therefore, their storage terminals can only accommodate small volumes. So therefore, it requires small ships to carry it. Small ships over long distances aren't efficient. Big ships coming to small ports isn't efficient either. So what this suggests to me is that Jamaica is probably bringing fuel from the United States or some of the suppliers in Central America that I usually buy from, and then selling that to Trinidad using small ships. 50,000 barrels a day or a cargo is a small cargo and not efficient to bring those. So it brings into question, if there's a collaboration, who's bringing what assets or what capability to the dance? So the question is, who has the best storage, the best location, the best credit rating, and the best ability to manage risk? And it seems from this arrangement that Paria and Petrojam have determined Petrojam is the better party. Now, that is on the outset, and that is giving, as far as I can tell, the best look to it. And it may make sense, I don't know from the economics. Now, the reality is that Petrojam and Paria both procure largely through the same trader. And that trader has been involved in some high-profile corruption cases to the point there just last week, the highest Swiss criminal court found them guilty of corruption and levied substantial fines and jail time on executives and traders. So it really calls for some more transparency to ensure the populations of both Venezuela and Trinidad that, for instance, Petrojam is not being used as a third party to create an arm's length perception. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying that's out there. And if you want to be clear to the public, you must be clear that the deal is arm's length. Now, who they're buying from, we don't know. So Jamaica's demand for heavy fuel oil has been declining. because they're importing a lot of LNG for power. And that too is a deal that needs some discussion. I really calls into question the negotiation capacity in Jamaica. And that means that they have less demand. So therefore their contracts may suggest they have excess supply. I don't know. So it may be a combination of those things that comes to mind. So that to me would suggest that there might be an underlying rationale for the collaboration. What worries me, and I guess worries others, is why and how. Why did this happen this way? Why, for instance, are we looking at getting more use of the facilities in carrier, in point of pay, the storage capacity, for instance, the fact that we have large terminals. Now, it may make sense to have only small cargoes. Why? Because that cargo goes into inventory. That's your cash tied up. So you don't want to have large volumes sitting in tanks that you can't dispose of. So managing that is part of the risk management portfolio of any refinery manager, any trading team. So those are the things that come to mind. Now, one question that worries me is carrier, like any state company, falls under the remit of the procurement regulations. Was this process of procurement undertaken under that remit? In other words, did it follow the guidelines of the procurement regulations, or is this somehow exempt from that? It's a major procurement. It's $50-60 million, depending on which number you go by. It's quite a large procurement. So I would say those are the things that come to mind initially, David. The thing that worries me sometimes is that when government ministers speak about these things and companies, they speak about confidential negotiations. And that's almost as the police saying this is a gang-related murder. In other words, you'll hear nothing more about this. And you have to question why it's confidential or what aspects of it are confidential or not. And that blanket statement makes us believe that, one, they're doing good business, they know what they're doing, and we don't need to know or can't know. And I don't accept that, because I know, for instance, that the laws of Trinidad and Tobago provide for a great degree of transparency. I know also that the ministers break the very laws they've sworn an oath to uphold, including some laws on transparency. So, so I don't always take that for granted. Like I said, I don't listen for what I hear, I listen for what I don't hear. And that's the background, David, to the